it's John McCabe. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the John A. McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime, in as little as 15 hours worth of effort, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, on today's show, Real Estate Investing Monday, my guest is someone I've known since 2009 when I first got into real estate investing. I'd never met someone so passionate about real estate investing with the willingness to share that passion, education, and knowledge with anyone who wanted to meet, have coffee, or just talk about real estate investing. Now, Mike Wolf is an international speaker, an author, and a mentor. He's been investing in real estate for over 25 years and helps people realize their dreams of a lifestyle of freedom by teaching strategies to achieve passive income. Now, he's been featured on TV, radio, and numerous print publications and enjoys sharing his knowledge when he speaks all over the world. Now, Mike helps investors build an amazing life by creating turnkey properties for them to invest in. Now, investments where he does all the heavy lifting for them by selecting the right market, the right neighborhood, the right home, the right tenants, and hand selecting the property management team to make the investment process easy. Now, when I first started in real estate investing, I spent some time with Mike traveling around to different cities. We went to Las Vegas and Phoenix as he took other investors on tours of the areas he was investing, showed them how to buy houses at the auctions, lined up people to educate these investors who are from outside of the U.S. on how to set up their companies and deal with the tax situations. It was such a great time and an amazing learning experience. Now, there's a couple things I know to be very true about Mike. First, the guy loves to have fun. He enjoys traveling the world, meeting with new people, and just enjoying life. For as long as I've known Mike, he's been living his life on his terms and his schedule, not anyone else's. Now, second, the guy really likes his ice cream, and it doesn't matter where he goes or what time of the year it is. For Mike, it's always ice cream time. And for anyone who knows Mike knows this is the case. But Mike used to be a workaholic and someone who had to do everything himself. Now, it would be nothing for him to start working as soon as he woke up in the morning and work continuously until 10 or 12 at night, putting in long days every single day. But through coaching, masterminding, and just hanging around with people in other industries, Mike realized there's a much better way to build his business. Now, Mike has built a variety of different teams and implemented systems into his business, so he has more time for himself, his family, and being a new grandfather. Now, today, Mike's going to share with us how to build teams and put systems in place so you can create a balance and a lifestyle in your life, not just for you, but for your family. So don't go away, because when I return, I'm going to be joined by my good friend, Mike Wolf. Hey, and thanks for joining us today. Today is Monday. It's Real Estate Investing Monday, where I interview various real estate investors as well as educate you on a variety of strategies that can help you achieve financial freedom in your life. Now, when it comes to real estate investing or any business for that fact, it's important to build teams and implement systems. Otherwise, you'll become a workaholic and start dreading the one thing that can get you out of the rat race to begin with. Now, also, if you don't build yourself teams and systems, all you've done is really create yourself another job, albeit one where you're the boss, but not one that's going to enable you to take time off or take a vacation. Now, you're always at the will of other people. So, but our guest today is going to help you change your way of thinking when it comes to creating passive income, building teams, and creating the lifestyle that you want for yourself as well as your family. Now, Mike Wolf is an international speaker, author, and mentor. He's been investing in real estate for over 25 years and helps people realize their dreams of a lifestyle of freedom by teaching strategies to achieve passive income. Now, he's been featured on TV, radio, and numerous print publications and enjoys sharing his knowledge when he speaks all over the world. Now, Mike helps investors build an amazing life by creating turnkey properties for them to invest in. Now, investments where he does all the heavy lifting for them by selecting the right market, the right neighborhood, the right home, the right tenants, and hand selecting the property management team to make the investment process easy. So please give it up with likes, love, shares, and a virtual flurry of thumbs up and heart icons across the screen for my guest today and good friend, Mike Wolf. How you doing, Mike?
I am great. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Thanks for joining me. You were actually supposed to be guest number 1 on the first episode of the John A. McCabe Show, but unfortunately, I just couldn't connect at that point in time. You're traveling around Europe, and
Yeah, well, I realize that I'm pretty grateful because in North America here we have really darn good internet
Yeah,
compared to what I
exactly.
was experiencing during my travels in Europe. It was definitely challenging, but it's good to finally be on the show.
And in a lot of European countries, they don't have Starbucks.
Well, and even the ones that do with the time difference, I'd find some good Wi-Fi in Starbucks, and then of course, the difference between Edmonton and Europe is I'd have to be there in the middle of the night, so they'd
Yeah,
have to stay open late for me, and they wouldn't do it.
no,
So
unfortunately,
over those guys.
yeah. What's up with those guys? Don't they know who you are?
Exactly. I know that hurts.
Well, Mike, first thing I want to do before we get too far in the interview is what we do, a speed round of questions. Now, I know you've watched the show before, so there's nothing that you need to study for. You're not going to be graded on this. So it's just a round of
Thank
10.
goodness. I know I'd fail, so this is good.
Exactly. So just a round of 10 questions so the viewers actually get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
Just come up, the first thing that comes to your mind in a word or a couple words. And as always, I'd like everyone at home to play along. If you haven't done so, please love this video, share it with your friends on your Facebook feed, on any business pages that you manage as well. And please play along with us by entering your answers along with the questions and see how your answers compare to Mike. So are you all set, Mike?
All right, bring it on.
Okay, name the book that impacted your life the most?
Millionaire Messenger by Brendan Burchard.
When you were a young boy, who was your celebrity crush?
Farrah Fawcett. I can't believe she died on me. But anyway, I'm still getting over that.
What is the book, podcast, or show that you're into right now?
I love marketing. Joe Polish.
Yeah, quite a few people have been on the show, definitely into Joe Polish's podcast.
Yeah, good stuff.
Do you currently work with any coaches?
I have lots of coaches, and I always have lots of coaches, lots of people that mentor me.
Do you want to just name a couple?
Well, I have the good fortune. I get to I volunteer for Brendan Burchard, so I get to hang out with him.
Nice.
Craig Duswalt's a friend of mine. Who else do I hang out with these days? I love Tony Robbins. I don't work with him one-on-one, but he's somebody who
Your brother
look up
there.
to.
Your brother there, the guy that looks just like you.
That's right. We're twins. Yeah, for those of you, so I got to meet him, and we have our picture taken together, and I'm 5'6", and he's 6'7", so, we look like twins.
No, I mean,
Oh, Mel Abraham.
Mel, yeah.
Yeah, Mel
brother.
Abraham, very, very good friend of mine, and my doppelganger apparently, and he's another brilliant guy. Well, I've got so many people that inspire me, and being in the space that I'm in, I get to hang out and interact with a lot of them fairly regularly. So I feel very grateful. But yeah, I got lots and lots of people I look up to.
Excellent. So, what is your favorite movie of all time?
Goodfellas.
And are you currently involved in a mastermind?
I am involved in like 6 or 7 different masterminds.
Excellent. So name the person, either dead or alive, who you'd most like to meet and have dinner with.
Well, you, but since you're up in Edmonton and there's snow there.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
The person I'd love to have, I'd love to sit down with Tony Robbins and pick his brain.
Okay.
I've got to meet him, but I didn't get to spend any great length of time with him, unfortunately.
Excellent. So I think I know the answer to this one. What's your favorite type of vacation, beach or adventure tour?
Well, you know what? Most people would assume beach, and I love the beach. And anybody who follows me on Facebook or my YouTube channel, I'm always filming in front of beaches. But I love to travel for adventure as well. And sometimes I like to travel for volunteering and giving back. And so the stuff that people see is usually the beaches, and I do love them. But I just love travel in general, and a lot of times when I travel, I try to mix a whole bunch of things into the same trip. So
excellent. So what's the best business advice you ever received?
I think it came from Brendan Burchard when he says, put your best stuff out there, give away your best stuff for free. And so if you watch my YouTube channel, I've got like 100 and something videos there where I give away the best things that I've learned in 26 years of real estate investing. And Brendan's the one who inspired me, because first of all, I was afraid to go make videos. I didn't want to do it. And but I eventually got over that, and now I get a lot of clients, but I get a lot of people. They send me emails saying, "Hey, your free stuff is better than some of the stuff I paid $30,000 to get a mentorship on," and so that makes me feel really good to know that you can go and help other people and have an impact, and that's all thanks to Brendan. I never used to have my stuff out on video. So
excellent. So last question is a multi-part. Is it water, beer, or wine? And is it pizza, wings, or salad? What's your
first of all, all the
treat?
above. I have water. I have water in front of me right now. But if I wasn't being, if I didn't have to stay sober, I mean, wine's always good. And I'm Canadian, so I have to like beer. It's part of our culture. And I've gone vegan, so pizza, no cheese with lots of veggies is good. Ice cream, Ben and Jerry's coconut milk, almond milk ice cream is better than the previous version of ice cream that I used to eat.
Yeah.
And but hey, all the above. I love all food. Food is good. And drinks are good too. So
nice. So Mike, for the people who don't actually know you that are watching right now, can you give the viewers a little bit about your origin story? Who is Mike Wolf? Maybe a 2 to 3 minute version of who you are, what you do, where you came from, that sort of thing.
Sure. Well, basically, I am from Calgary, Canada, and my furniture still lives there. I don't hang out there that much anymore because I don't like cold weather. I don't do very well with winter. So, but yeah, I started off with very, very, very humble beginnings and not really any aspirations to be a real estate investor, to be honest with you. I was kind of living my parents' dream. They wanted me to become a lawyer. So I went to University of Calgary. I got my first degree, managed to rack up a bunch of student loans, and decided, before I go back and go to law school, I want to pay these student loans off. And to make a long story short, ended up working for the phone company, which is now, for you Canadians, is now TELUS. Back in the day, I'm really dating myself, it was Alberta Government Telephones. And so I was working there. Because I was a new kid on the block, I would get what they called split shifts, and which means that I would work 9 in the morning till noon, then I'd have the afternoon off, and I'd come back and work like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And to make a long story short, it took my entire day up. And the only good news was we were allowed to trade shifts. And I'm a night owl, and I was back then too. And so I'd always try to find people with night shifts and try to give them my split. And of course, the people that had the good shifts were the people of seniority, so they'd laugh at me and say, well, I'm not going to take your split. But I'd always find somebody that would say, you know what, I've got something I've got to do that night. So I tell you what, I'm not going to take your split, but if you find me a day shift, I'll trade you. And so I go talk to all the people with day shifts. I find that one person that would finally trade with me. I talked to every single person in the office, or like 150 people in the office, and I'd always manage to put deals together where I could get rid of that split. And everybody in the office started to say, Mike, you got to go into sales. Like, how do you get rid of your shifts? Nobody else could get rid of them. If they get scheduled a split, they just work it.
Yeah.
And for me, I almost never work them. And so everybody said, you got to go into sales. And, I thought, you know what, maybe they're right. And so I ended up becoming a realtor first. And luckily, a lot of people at the office saw me as this master negotiator, so they all wanted to work with me as a realtor. But that was kind of the very, very beginnings of getting into real estate. And I bought my first revenue property when I was in my mid-20s. I was still working at the phone company. And I remember a couple of years after I bought it, my goal was not to be a full-time real estate investor. It was really, I thought, hey, you know what, if I buy my first property, I could see the value of real estate from being a realtor and watching the prices go up. And I thought, you know what, if I still own this property in 25 years, that'll be great for my retirement. The mortgage will be paid off. And that's why I bought it. A couple of years later, Calgary boomed. That property was worth considerably more money. And I was looking back, I was still at the phone company and saying, you know what, for the last 2.5 years, this real estate, I did almost nothing, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And I made more money on that piece of property than I did going to an office that I didn't really enjoy for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So that led me on this journey where I had to eventually tell my mom I'm not going to law school. She wasn't very happy about that. She's still not very happy about that. But it led me on this journey, and it's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and it was a double-edged sword. I got really lucky on that first deal, and I'm very grateful for it. But part of the problem with becoming lucky, as opposed to having a good strategy, is that you want to duplicate it and you can't. And
exactly.
So my next deal after that, I managed to lose a lot of the profits I made on that first one.
Nice.
Because I decided I don't want to wait 2 years. I started to get greedy. I don't want to wait 2 years. I want to make this my career now, and I want to learn how to make money I want to flip homes and do it every 90 days. And instead of getting a mentor, you were asking me earlier, do you have coaches? I have tons of coaches now. Back then, I was too proud because I thought, I knew everything there was to know about real estate because I made that really nice big first paycheck, right? I became the expert in my mind. And so I went now from being a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. I'm always trying to up my skills and hang out with people way smarter than me. But that's how I got started. That's how it all began.
Excellent. So, Mike, when it comes to investing in real estate, what specific things are you looking for in a market? You know, what is it about the area, the neighborhood, the houses? Can you sort of, in your model, what is it that you're specifically looking for?
Well, what I'm looking for is a number of things, and it's not always what people expect. And so I'll tell you how I pick a market, because I used to invest only in Calgary. That's all I knew, and I thought, well, it makes sense to invest close to home because then I can look after the property and I can do my own property management. That would be, now that I look back at that, to me that's the same logic as if I lived in Antarctica amongst around a bunch of penguins. And I had an opportunity to buy a McDonald's franchise in Antarctica where there's no people, or have one on, you know, the Las Vegas Strip or New York Times Square.
Yeah.
And so when you start to buy stuff because it's convenient, that's a big mistake. You got to buy stuff based on business sense, not on convenience, not on emotion. So when I am picking a market, what I look at is three main things. The first thing is that market landlord friendly or is it tenant friendly? Now, right now, as we speak, I'm sitting here in Southern California. I'm near LA, and I will never buy a piece of revenue property here. And the reason for that is if you get a bad tenant that knows how to work the system, they can stay in your home over a year without making a single payment. And I don't know about you, but in my 26 years of doing real estate, not once have I had the bank call me up saying, hey, Mike, I understand your tenant didn't pay. You don't need to pay your mortgage. I've never had that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
If the banks did that, I wouldn't care. But since the banks don't do that, I can't run a business where I've got no revenue coming in, but I've got expenses at the end of every month.
Yeah.
So number one thing I look at is how landlord friendly is it? My favorite market right now is Atlanta, because we can usually get rid of a bad tenant in 3 weeks or less, no matter what they say to the judge, no matter how much they lie, no matter how much they try to work the system, they're gone. So that's number one thing I look at.
Nice.
Number two thing that I'm going to look at is what's going on in the economy in that market. Are there jobs being created, and also how diversified is that economy? So if we look at Calgary, which is an oil city, it goes up and down with oil, and right now they're definitely feeling the pinch of low oil prices.
Yeah.
If you look at Detroit, that was a high flying place back in the day when the American automobile industry was flying high. Now it's suffering tremendously, and it probably will forever now because the new players in cars, you have these new self-driving cars. So the new players aren't Ford and GM and Chrysler, it's Google, Apple, and Uber. So you want to look at places where there's a lot of different jobs being created, but in various industries. And once again, I love Atlanta because 75% of Fortune 500 companies have an office there. Many of them have their head offices there. So it's head office to Coca-Cola and Turner Broadcasting, Delta Airlines, Home Depot. So if Coca-Cola shuts down its doors, then your tenants can go find a job somewhere else. It's not all dependent on one market and one sort of economy.
Right.
Also, when you see a lot of jobs being created, what does that do? People, especially in the U.S., people in the United States, they will move looking for jobs. Canada, we tend to stay put more. I don't know why that is. I think we're frozen. In the U.S., they will move for jobs. And so you see the population growing, and that adds pressure to the real estate market. And that's how you make money, is when the homes go up. It's not what you see on TV. Everybody on TV, they have flipping Vegas and flipping this and flipping that. And flipping's okay, and I've done it myself, and I still sometimes do it. But flipping is a job for yourself. If you stop flipping, if you get sick, if you want to take a vacation, as soon as you stop doing the flips, the paychecks stop coming in. So I'm a really big fan of buying and holding properties and collecting cash flow while you hold it. And then over time, those properties go up. And that's where you make your money. When those properties go up, that means you don't have to go and keep working at a job to buy your next property. The property that you buy today should help you buy your future properties tomorrow. So number two thing is I want to be in a market that's got job creation, population growth, because that leads to appreciation. That's how we get wealthy. Yeah. Then the number three thing, which is the thing that most people look at right off the bat, and they don't even know about the other two, they don't even look at the other two things, is what's the return on investment going to be? How much rent can I generate? How hard can my money work for me while I'm holding on to this property? That allows me to sustain my investment. And that's why so many people lost their shirt in the recession, because they didn't have the sustainability piece. They were,
right.
I remember when things were booming, there was a article on the front page of the Calgary Sun. It took up the entire front page. And it said, house prices going up $1,000 per day. And I owned a bunch of properties in Calgary. And on the one hand, it's very exciting to know that, hey, I'm making $1,000 per day per property, at least on paper I'm making it.
On paper, yeah.
But usually what that means is that's the end of the cycle. Things are going to start coming down. Things are going to crash, because the things that cause that kind of appreciation are usually a bunch of speculators getting into the market. And one speculator sells to the next, it sells to the next.
That's right.
And so you have all these people jumping in the market thinking they're going to win the lottery, but they buy a home now, sell it at the end of the month, make 30 grand. And that's not really a very solid strategy, because eventually that market shifts. It usually happens quite fast when it's going up that quickly. So I want to have homes that are going to give me money at the end of every single month. If the homes don't go up, when the recession kicked in, a lot of people assumed that I lost my shirt. And I owned a lot of properties. I was very involved in Las Vegas at that point, and that market dropped from its peak to its low point. It dropped almost 80%, 80%.
Wow.
So, but I was buying cash flow properties, so my home still continued to give me money at the end of every month. I didn't have to sell anything. I held on to everything. I didn't have to sell it because they were still spitting out paychecks at the end of every month. And if you're an investor like me, I reinvest all the money that comes in into more real estate. So at the end of the month, when homes went on sale for 80% off, instead of buying one home at the end of the month, I could buy 3, 4, 5 homes at the end of the month. So it allowed me to expand my portfolio. So when you stick to having those, when first of all, like I said, you're looking at, hey, is it landlord friendly or tenant friendly? If I know I'm only going to have good tenants in my property at any given time, and the bad ones I can get rid of, that's going to help me have a really good safe investment where I know that things are going to be very secure. The second thing, the growth and the job creation, that means I'm going to have something that's appreciating, which is where I know I'm going to eventually get wealthy if I can hold on to the properties. Then the number 3 thing, having a good return on my investment while I'm holding, means that it's going to support me and put food on my table and give me cash flow while I'm waiting for it to do its thing. And when you have those 3 factors in place, you have a very, very safe, you can have a very safe real estate portfolio that just generates revenue no matter what the market's doing. And that's the mark of a good investor, is being able to make money in an up market, down market, or even if it stays the same. You make money no matter what the market does.
Yeah, you analyze properties for cash flow. You have that tenant paying down the mortgage on a regular basis, building up your equity. Having set principles such as those when you're analyzing and working with somebody who's actually done it. Because I know, and you know yourself, a lot of people getting into real estate investing, they don't reach out, or they take a course, they think they know it all, and they end up in a very bad position very, very quickly. So, Mike, once you've figured out what market is you're going to invest in, and you've spent some time there, meeting the power team members, etc., and decided to invest in that area, what kind of systems do you implement?
Well, basically, what I want to do is I always want to have things to make it foolproof for my teams. So, let me backtrack, because back in the olden days, I used to be a one-man show where I do everything on my own. And I used to invest just in Calgary, and I was my own property manager. And the best thing that ever happened to me is I've got no talent for fixing anything, so I can never do my own rehab on the homes, luckily. So I had to hire people. But I used to do my own property management. And so anyway, from doing all the stuff myself, once upon a time, then when I got into my second market, which was Vegas, now I had properties in both Calgary and Vegas, and now I have to delegate. I was forced to, otherwise I probably never would have. Because most entrepreneurs, we tend to, and I'm one of them, we tend to be control freaks, and we don't think anybody can do the job as well as we can, so we're reluctant to give it to anybody. So now when I started to work in 2 markets, I basically had a property manager in Vegas, and then I was doing the property management myself in Calgary. And I realized that, first I had the property manager had to call me for every little thing that came up. If there's a leaky sink or toilet or appliance wasn't working, I'd make it so he had to call me, and I micromanaged him to death, poor guy. And but I remember, I'd get calls saying, hey, you know what, the fridge doesn't work at 123 Main Street. And of course he had to get my permission. What should I do? And it was always the same answer. I never once said, oh, the tenant doesn't need a fridge. Yeah. It was always the same answer. See what it costs to fix it. And if it's too much, then let's just replace it with a new one. And so I started to realize, this micromanaging thing is taking up just as much of my time as doing the job myself. So I reluctantly once again gave up the reins and gave my team some freedom. But I always put systems in place. So once again with the fridge thing, I say, well, I tell them exactly that. If it's up to a certain, if it's going to cost more a certain amount, let's replace it. So what I do is I make it so that it's pretty much foolproof. So I've got teams in Atlanta, for example, And right now, as I'm on the podcast with you, I've got somebody who's my acquisitions guy. And his job is to basically go find good deals for us, either by, schmoozing bankers. We buy a lot of our homes in packages from banks, or dealing with homeowners or whatever. But he's got a very strict set of criteria as to what we can buy and what we can't buy. So, for example, I don't want homes that are older than 1995. Old homes need a lot more work, a lot more ongoing repairs, and they tend to cost, just a lot more headaches in the long run. So everything's got to be 1995 and newer. Everything's got to have 3 bedrooms or more. It's got to have 2 bathrooms or more. It's got to have a double attached garage. It's got to be in very specific zip codes. There's only certain zip codes that we work in because that's where the homes rent quickly and they also resell quickly. So I have a whole bunch of criteria that I've got in place so that people don't have to call me all the time, and they don't, I don't want to be the babysitter, and they don't want to be babysat. So once I started to give up some of the control, things started to happen a lot better for me. And once I stopped micromanaging, then I have people now. I've got the teams. They love working for me because they feel like they've got some autonomy. They can make their own decisions, and they don't feel like they have to be babysat. Not only that, most of these people, they do the job 100 times better than I ever could. If you do something all day long, if you're a property manager and you're only getting paid if there's a tenant in the property, of course you're going to make sure you got good tenants. So, so I basically put systems in place, but I also leave a lot of control for, there's people that are smarter than me. I'm not going to tell them how to do their job. Sometimes they create the system, and we agree upon systems. And so it's a matter of having the right people in place, having the right systems, and once you do that, like all our properties in Atlanta, if you were to come with me to Atlanta and look at some of the properties, after we see about 4 of them, you'd say, Mike, I don't really need to see anymore. And the reason for that is they all have the exact same carpet inside. Everything we do is upgraded. We have upgraded carpet, upgraded countertops, upgraded paint. Everything's upgraded, and they all look exactly alike because we're buying everything in bulk. Yeah. So after a certain amount of time, that's some of the stuff that I learned is let's make this so it's as foolproof as possible, as easy as possible, and also make it so the teams are as happy as possible working with me. And so I love to overpay my staff. It's not really overpaying them, giving them what they're worth, I guess is a better way to put it. Yeah. Because I need them to be doing a great job. I don't want them leaving me, going somewhere else to work for somebody else. So this is stuff that I learned over time, and what it all leads to is the thing that we get into at least what I got into real estate for in the first place, and I think most people get into it for this reason, but they often don't get it, and that's freedom. Right. To have a stress-free life where you get to do what you love every day. And so now I got that, but it came from putting the right people, the right systems, and then giving up control and stepping back from it.
So can you share with us the process of how you help other real estate investors, with using your systems? What is their biggest challenge to getting into properties in some of these areas, and sort of how do you overcome those challenges by just plugging them into your system?
Right. Well, here's the biggest things that I see is most real estate investors do not have a life, and I've got some friends that are extremely wealthy from real estate. They multi-millionaires, and I've got one in particular I'm thinking of, and he's done flips for probably 15, 20 years now, and very successfully. And it's not that easy to do. Most people flip homes, they run into a brick wall every now and then where they can't find inventory, or quite often that happens. And he's been very successful with it, but he's got so much stress. And he'll admit, I'm not. This is stuff he's told me. We've had conversations about that. He's got so much stress in his life, and he's created a monster for himself. He's got this huge operation. He's got a lot of people that work for him, but he's still very much involved in the day-to-day. And his health is failing. He doesn't get to spend time with his family. And to me, that's not a life. I don't know. It's just, and I used to be there, so I'm speaking from experience. So I like to help people. I think 100% of people should be invested in real estate. And not just because it's been good for me, but if you look at the most wealthy people on this planet, they're all invested in real estate. But most of them aren't doing it on a day-to-day basis. Robert Kiyosaki's not knocking on doors looking for properties. No. Donald Trump, I wish he was, because then he wouldn't. Anyway, I won't get into politics. But all the richest people on the planet invest in real estate for a number of reasons. And the most common one is that there's a lot of tax incentives. Even if you're a foreigner, you're investing in the U.S., there's a lot of tax incentives to invest down here. So you can actually bring down your taxable income. So 100% of all people should own real estate, but not everybody should be a full-time real estate investor. No. So there's 2 types. You have the entrepreneurial real estate investor, which is like myself, where I didn't know any better when I got started, so I did jump in, and it turned out to be an amazing career with a lot of ups and downs, but I loved it. The vast majority of people who get into it don't love it, and even if they love it at first, because maybe, you get to be with people and you get to be outside instead of in a cubicle, whatever. First of all, very few people make a good living at it, and two, people make a ton of mistakes when you first get started, and I did too. My first one I got lucky on, and then after that I made some pretty expensive mistakes, and luckily I was determined to not go to law school, and I didn't want to go back to the phone company, so I had to make it work. And then I got smart, and I basically started to hire other people who were more successful than me to train me on how to do things properly.
Yeah.
So what I do basically is I do the work for the clients. As I mentioned, I've got teams that go and buy the properties. Quite often we're buying them in bulk. Then we inspect them. We fix them from top to bottom. They're all newer, so they look actually better than new when we're done, because we go with higher than builder grade on almost everything we put in them. And then I handpick a property management team, and the same property management team is looking after my properties. And that's very, very important. If you're ever looking to purchase properties through a turnkey organization, make sure that the person that you're buying from eats their own cooking. Because I know so many people that sell properties in places, and they don't own any of their own properties. They're not keeping them in their portfolio because they're buying in crappy neighborhoods.
Right.
They're putting in they have crappy teams, and they're just putting together whatever they can so they can sell their homes quickly. So basically, I eat my own cooking. I own properties in the same markets that I sell to other people in. The same team that manages my clients' properties is managing my properties, and that's usually important. And I'll tell you a little quick story here. I remember when before I got into Atlanta, I was very heavily invested in Phoenix, and I had somebody call me up, and she wasn't working with me yet at that time, but she had bought a property in Phoenix, and she goes, Mike, you're always talking about how great Phoenix is. Are you having trouble finding tenants? And I go, you know what? No, not at all. We have a long line of tenants waiting to get into properties. And at this point, it was towards the end of us being in Phoenix, because it was getting very hard to acquire properties. They're a very, very tough market. And you probably remember those days. Yeah. But in any case, we couldn't find properties, but we had a lot of tenants waiting for us to get stuff. And so she goes, well, I've had this property for 4 months. My property manager hasn't been able to find a tenant. What do you think's wrong? And so I said, well, you know what? I've got this waiting list. So why don't I'll send my property manager over. I don't normally do this. If you're not working with me, I don't normally send my property manager over, but I'll send him over, and we'll put one of our tenants that are waiting into your property, and that'll be a win-win. It'll help you out, and it'll help the tenant out, and we'll be happy because one less person bugging us, when are we going to get a property? So anyway, my property manager goes over to her house and gets there, and sure enough, there was a tenant living in the home that had been paying cash to the property manager, and the property manager lied to her, saying that it was vacant. So one of the challenges you're going to have when you're investing, especially far from home, as I mentioned, investing in your own backyard doesn't always make the most business sense. When you invest further from home, you have to have people you can rely on. And if you only have one property, there's a lot of opportunity for people to take advantage of you. You don't really mean much to them in their bottom line. And even if this person wasn't being malicious, which he was, but if he wasn't, let's say we're both using the same property manager, and they're managing 50 homes for me, and they're managing one for you. Who are they going to give their best tenants to? They want to make sure I'm extremely happy. They don't want to lose 50 paychecks.
Exactly.
So you're going to get leftover. You're going to get the leftovers. So the people that invest with me, the one really good piece of security, peace of mind that they've got is that my property manager in Atlanta, he's managing 750 properties for both myself and my clients. And if somebody were to call me up and say, hey, you know what, your property manager he's been pocketing cash, or whatever, he put a bad tenant in my property, he doesn't stand to lose one paycheck. It's a package deal. You lose all of it. And so,
That's right.
So my property, I have a lot of leverage in a good way. I treat my teams with the utmost respect. So I don't hold that over his head and say, hey, listen, if you do something wrong, I'm going to fire you. I need him as much as he needs me. But we both have leverage over each other, because we need each other to create. If he lost those 750 paychecks, he's not going to be very happy. And if I have to go find another property manager for the 750 properties, I wouldn't be happy either. But it gives my clients a lot of peace of mind, knowing that, one, I have 26 years of real estate experience, so I know where to buy. I'm putting my clients into the same neighborhoods I'm buying in. We know how to fix the homes properly. We put a 1-year warranty on the homes, because the one thing I learned, and I'm sure you had this 100 times, you buy a property, you get it inspected, and you fix all the things on the inspection, and then your tenant moves in. And guaranteed in first 3 days they move in,
Something's going wrong. Yeah.
They're gonna find, leaky something, or it's gonna be little things, but all these little things are a really big pain. And if you're an out of town investor, fixing a little thing is a big pain in the butt. So we put a 1-year warranty on it. My team fixes everything that comes up in that first year. You're covered. And we already own a lot of this stuff. We don't go shopping when we buy a home. We already own thousands of gallons of paint, thousands of yards of carpet, a million appliances. We have all this stuff. So when something goes wrong, we already own it. We have the teams that can go and fix it. And so that's really what you're buying, is you're buying something that, when I say turnkey, it's very, very stress-free. And as you know, I spend, probably 350 days a year traveling. So when I say turnkey, I want it to be very turnkey, meaning that if a tenant were to move out, I don't want to be on hold with the utility company to put my utilities on.
Yeah.
When it's time to pay my property taxes, I own a lot of properties. I don't want to have to remember to pay my property taxes on time. I don't want to have to deal with insurance companies. So my team is trained to handle all that stuff. So for my buyers, a lot of them are doctors, they're lawyers, they're engineers, they're very busy professionals, a lot of them, and they don't want to have to deal with any of that stuff, and they don't have to. So the best thing you get is peace of mind, and basically you tell us where you want your check to go at the end of the month, and we do it for you, and that's it. So it's very, very simple.
Yeah, that's a huge distinction when you're talking about turnkey opportunities, is that you're actually invested in all of those places as well. You have a lot of your portfolio there, so it's a completely different scenario than getting involved with somebody who's just out there flogging properties or flogging turnkeys that all they're looking for is just to quickly turn properties over and to make the commission off the sale of the property, with no regard as to the teams that are in place or sort of any of the after customer service that comes along with having turnkey opportunities like that. So Mike, let's just move the discussion a little bit to lifestyle. As long as I've known you, you're always on the go, traveling North America, even around the world, meeting with people, exploring markets, building teams. Can you explain how your lifestyle has changed since you really started implementing systems in your business?
Oh man, it's night and day. So my daughter, she's 21 now, and when she was growing up, I loved to travel back then too. And back then I was married, so I had the good fortune of being able to travel every now and then. So I go away for a week with the family, go to some beach and relax. But that was pretty much 99% of the time that I got to spend with my daughter was usually when we were on a vacation somewhere. When I was home, I wasn't. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be running around. I'd be gone before she'd wake up. I'd get home after she went to bed, and I missed a lot of, I have a lot of regrets as to how much I missed. And I'm fortunate because, like I said, we did travel a lot, and that's when I caught up. But it's the day-to-day things. It's getting to spend time, watch them take their first steps, and being there when they come home from school and need help with homework and things like that. So back in the day, I would describe myself as definitely a workaholic. It didn't bother me, to be honest, for quite a while. Because I liked the adrenaline rush. I actually I enjoyed the grind, and I enjoyed the work. I never minded it. But now I've got a new grandson. He's 8 months old, and I'm doing things so much differently. I've got so much more spare time now. And I still keep busy. I still love to travel. I love to speak. I get to be on a lot of stages, luckily. But I'm always taking trips back to spend time with him, and I just actually flew him and my daughter and my daughter's boyfriend. We flew him down to California. We were hanging out on the beach, and I used Asher, my grandson, as an excuse to go to Universal Studios. He got nothing out of it. I loved it. But if you use real estate properly and you use the right, once again, putting the right people in the right place and taking yourself away from working in the business every day, whatever it is that you love doing, whether it be traveling, time with the kids, giving back. I do a lot of volunteer work. I love doing that. So I guess what's changed, what's really shifted for me is largely the currency that I used to measure the things that I want to do. So I used to measure it in terms of dollars. And, it used to be, when I was younger, it's like I'd always tell my wife, well, sorry, I'm working a lot. I'm working long days. I know that. But at some point, things are going to get easier. And the truth of the matter was, as time went on, it didn't get easier. It got harder and harder, because as you get more properties, you have more troubles. You have more, you spend more time chasing after deadbeat tenants. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more work involved, and it never actually gets easier. It keeps building and building and building. And so, I got to this point in my life where I had, I had more than enough money that I didn't really have to worry about money anymore. But I was very miserable, and I had all the toys, I had the fancy cars, I had the big house, I had everything you could possibly imagine that I thought was supposed to make me happy, and I was totally unfulfilled. And now, you know me quite well, John, and probably some of the people listening in who know my lifestyle. There was a point in my life where, because I was unhappy and I was feeling depressed, I actually put everything in storage, and I traveled around the world. And I took my then wife and my daughter. We traveled around the world. And as I traveled, first of all, putting everything in storage is very, very difficult for me because I had this big emotional attachment to all these things. And I thought, how am I going to live without, my TV and my fancy stereo and my car and all this stuff? And, I can tell you, when I came back after 2 years, I learned a lot about what was important to me. And I learned that there's people on the other side of this planet that they don't even know where their next meal is coming from, let alone next paycheck. And they're smiling, and they're happy, and they're grateful, and they want to help you. And it's just so different than what we've got in North America, where we're all chasing after the next big toy, and we have to have a better boat than our neighbor and a fancier car. And we get caught up in this cycle that just makes us feel like we need to keep working harder and have more money.
And if you don't travel, for those who don't travel and they don't get to experience how other people live life, they really don't get it. I feel a lot of them really don't get it, because I've witnessed the same thing traveling to third world countries on a regular basis, and I find that people are happier in those countries than they are in North America, where there's so much excess here.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And I think people that don't really get to travel, they have this a bit of a tunnel vision approach to life, because we see stuff in books and we see stuff in school. And it's so much different when you actually get out there in the real world and see real people. And anyway, and I've done a lot of volunteering along the way, and it's been, some of the stuff that I've seen. I was working after Hurricane Katrina. I brought in a team, and we fixed up a lot of homes that were damaged by Hurricane Katrina, and brought some people back to that city. And nothing feels better to me than giving back. So when I travel, like I mentioned, you'll see me a lot on the beach, but what you don't see is a lot of times, like I was in Costa Rica earlier this year, I went to an orphanage, and donating money is really, it's meaningful, but it's not that meaningful to me. But I actually went there and I spent time with the kids, and I had more fun than the kids did. We were playing like foosball and water balloon fights, but it just feels so good and rewarding. And so the currency I use these days isn't money. I don't need more money. It's happiness. I measure everything in terms of happiness, and I find that giving back makes me happy. Spending time with my daughter and my grandson, there's nothing replaces that feeling. The money and the toys, I don't even want that anymore. Anybody who knew me in the olden days, I had the best stereo. My stereo looks a lot like this now. All my books are on here, all my pictures, everything I've got is on my phone. I have very little stuff. The stuff that I own, if it doesn't fit in the suitcases I bring with me as I travel, around, if it doesn't fit, I don't want it. And so I don't collect stuff. And it was so therapeutic. When I got back from my 2 years of traveling around the world, I got rid of almost everything in that storage locker. I sold it all off, and it was very, very therapeutic, and it felt so good. Now it's like whenever somebody tells me, oh, I'm going to be buying this whatever, fill in the blank, to me it almost stresses me out thinking about having to worry about that. Now I'm at the point, I still own a car in Calgary. I don't know why. I'm hardly ever there. But I take Uber almost everywhere now, and even not having to drive, that takes a level of stress off. Just sitting in the back of an Uber making my phone calls, or catching up on whatever I have to do on my computer, or whatever that is. So now I measure everything in terms of happiness. I also look at making life as stress-free as possible and enjoyable, and being able to share. And that's why I love speaking. So everything everything I do is something that I love. Every single day I'm doing stuff that I love, and I love speaking, I love teaching, I love traveling, I love giving back. So I figured out what really lights me up, and it wasn't the stuff that I thought was going to light me up, and the stuff that actually initially, where I thought, hey, I'm going to get rich quick. After that first deal, I thought I'd figure out how to win the lottery, and luckily I had some humbling experiences after that. But the things that I thought were going to light me up actually made me sad, and the stuff that wasn't even on my radar, like giving back and volunteering, that was never something I never ever thought about. And I can tell you, my favorite real estate project ever was that Hurricane Katrina one, the one in New Orleans, where we actually brought people back to the city, and we didn't give the homes away for free, but we sold a lot of them well below market value, and we changed these people's lives. And when you do that, There's nothing that can replace that feeling. And I've had other projects where I worked half as hard as that one and made a lot more money. They're meaningless. It was just paychecks.
Yeah,
so,
I think you and I are pretty much the same when it comes to lifestyle, Mike. In that really stuff doesn't mean anything for us. Like lifestyle for us is not about stuff, and
No,
neither one of us really care about material possessions at all. It's more about building businesses that can operate with us or without us, so we have choices, options, and we get to live life on our terms. I think that's kind of what you and I are both really interested in. But what do you see as some of the biggest trappings of other investors or entrepreneurs that they get into when it comes to working towards building their lifestyle? So they're on their way to build this lifestyle. What do you see as some of the biggest trappings of entrepreneurs and investors?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is a lot of times emotion gets in the way, and people start to make decisions. They don't make them with using their business sense. And so quite often, I see people, and I'm guilty of this too. My first market in the U.S. was Las Vegas, and I picked that for a very good reason because I liked hanging out in Vegas, and I had a friend who moved there, and I wanted an excuse to be there. Nowadays, I would never do that. I like Atlanta. It's a great city. It's not my favorite vacation destination. My favorite place to vacation to is Costa Rica. I own zero real estate there, and I probably never will own real estate there unless it's maybe down the road when I finally am too old to work. I'm going to work till the day I can't. But at the point where I can't, then maybe that's where I want to be, and I'll buy a property there. But for revenue, I'm not buying in places that don't make sense. So that's why I have very specific criteria as to what I'm picking. So you have to take the emotion out of it, and as soon as you put emotion in there, that's going to cause problems. So a lot of people, like I said, they invest in places because they want to be close to Mickey Mouse, or they want to be close to the Vegas Strip, or they want to be, somewhere where they can go golfing in the desert in the winter. And so that's not the right reason to pick your market. And then the other problem, the biggest problem, when you're first starting out, building teams is very difficult. When you're not doing a lot of volume, it's very, very difficult. So to me, if I was starting fresh, and I do teach people, I get a lot of people that want me to mentor them and teach them how to be hands-on with real estate, and that's fine. And it's good for a certain very small segment of the population that actually wants to do the work. But the first thing I explain to them is that this is going to be work, and it is going to become a job, and it is, it's fun at first because it's better than that. It seems better than that. It's more glamorous than the cubicle, but eventually, if you hit a brick wall and you're not passionate about it, you're just doing it because you see dollar signs, you're going to give up, and you're never going to make it. You're going to go back looking for a job at some point. And I had a friend of mine who I met she's a very successful real estate investor, but she doesn't have the systems and teams I have in place. She does it in Calgary. She looks after her own properties. And we were in Starbucks one day, and we were just kind of catching up. And she goes, "You know what, Mike? I one, I envy your lifestyle, and two, you know what? I would trade." In a heartbeat, I would trade with that barista behind the counter right now. I'd rather have her life and her job than mine. Because sometimes you build this thing and it gets big and it gets out of control, and it's very hard to retrofit. After you built it, you can't always go back. I was lucky because I actually did find ways to go back. I had built something that was way bigger than I could handle, and I managed to slowly put the pieces in place. And luckily, over the years, I've met so many other real estate investors, and I had so many contacts, so I was able to disassemble some of the stuff that involved me and put other people in different positions. I was very, very fortunate. The best time to think about how you're going to scale and take yourself out of it is before you even start. And start putting the systems in place right away. Start putting the teams in place right away. And if you don't have, if you start thinking about that and think, man, that's going to be a lot of work, just whether it be through me or somebody else, buy stuff that's already done for you and work with somebody who's already paved the path before you, and don't try to be a pioneer unless that's your passion. If it's your passion, I'm not going to say don't do it, but just never, when you see stuff on TV and it looks like it's no work at all and it's a piece of cake, that stuff is not. That's not
made
reality.
for TV.
That's made for TV.
That's not reality at all.
The name reality TV is the most misleading term ever.
Exactly.
So it is work.
So what's on the horizon for Mike Wolf? Will you continue doing what you're doing now? Are you going to slow down at all now that you're a grandfather? You're getting up there in age.
Well, I am getting up there in age. I won't deny that. I'm definitely in grandpa mode, and I'm already seeing my grandson. As I mentioned, he's 8 months old, and my goal and vision for myself is from the time that he's walking and talking to the time that he's in school, I want to create as many memories as possible. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting a lot of my best stuff on video so that people have access to it. And I'm trying to take myself, even though I love teaching, I love answering people's questions, and I still will, but a lot of times I get asked the same thing, and I'd rather just be able to send somebody a link, say, hey, watch this half-hour video instead of me explaining the same half-hour thing to you. And so I'm creating a lot of online stuff. But going forward, it's going to be, business as usual. I'm going to keep doing the stuff that I love. Obviously putting my grandson in the mix, making more time for him, but I'll still be doing these turnkey properties. I'll still be traveling. I'll still be volunteering because all that stuff makes me happy. And but I'm looking forward to teaching my grandson and sharing with my daughter and putting my best stuff out there for everybody to have access to online so that they can benefit from it too.
Excellent. Well, Mike, that's all the time that we have today. I would personally want to thank you for joining me today, being on the show, talking a little bit about what you do and how you do it. And Mike, if you, I'll post your contact links in the comments section of the show. And if anyone wants to connect with Mike, just go in there and grab his contact information, connect with him, check out his YouTube channel, all of his videos. And we'll put it in the notes section of the website as well once we post the video on the website. So everyone show Mike some love by hitting that like button, love button, and be sure to share this with your friends and associates on your business page. So Mike, it was great having you on the show, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. I know it's this time of year, it's not going to be in Canada. I'll definitely have to find you somewhere around the world in a warmer destination, but I definitely look forward to catching up with you. And for everyone else, just stick around. I'll be right back with closing remarks for today's show. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much.
Now, thanks for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show, where we work with entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers, get seen, get heard, get noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. Now, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, if you're someone who's looking to take your business to the next level and want to get some coaching advice, why not apply to be a guest on today's show? Now, for most entrepreneurs, we want to create a life of our own, create our own path, and do what we can to reach our own desired outcome, which is generally freedom. Freedom to choose what we want to do, when we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it. A life that's full of options and choices, where we worry less about money and more about the quality of time that we spend with others. Now, a great way to make that happen is to leverage other people's knowledge, time, and skill sets. Step one to reaching our freedom life is to realize that you can't do it alone. Working with a coach or being involved in masterminds is a great way for entrepreneurs to move their business forward. Now, a coach can help you shorten the time frame to get you from where you are to where you want to be, while being part of a mastermind is meant to bring entrepreneurs together, all with the goal of helping each other move forward with their business. Now, the second step to creating the life you envision for yourself as an entrepreneur is to implement systems into your business so you can streamline your operations, leverage systems, and free up your time to focus on your family, having fun, and the highest leverage activities in your business. The activities that get you the biggest return on your time invested, the ones that truly make you money. Now, sometimes we just don't know what systems we need, how to implement those systems, or even have the time to find out what is needed. Now, working with a coach or consultant that understands, uses, and specializes in systems that can streamline your operations can help save you time, aggravation, and make you a lot more money. Now, for example, having a system or strategy that allows you to leverage just 15 hours of your time into enough repurposed content to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device is a great example of leverage. Now, just imagine a system where you invest just 15 hours of your time, and the end result is you're a #1 best-selling author. You have enough content that's going to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. You have a successful podcast. Now, it's automatically attracting more attention, giving more value, and generating more leads, which enables you to attract an abundance of paying customers. Now, this is also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, to find out more about the Authority Acceleration Blueprint coaching program or mastermind, then contact me via my website at johnamccabe.com or connect with me through my show's Facebook page. Now, again, thank you for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's show when I have another great guest on discussing their business and accelerating their authority. So have yourself an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.